come on. She wanna rum, come on. Bring it
It's your boy, Shakespeare IT. And you are listening to the Shakethem podcast. Ooh, I'm very excited. I'm always on 7,000. Ooh, I got a great crew right here. On my left, a sexy cookie. Her name is June Plum. What's up, June? Step up to the mic, girl.
What's up, everyone?
Yeah. Next to June, I got the famous funny man in the world, Victor Cruz.
What up, everybody?
Yeah, what's going on, Victor?
Hey, man, I'm feeling good, man. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yes, I'm glad you're here.
Appreciate that.
On your left, on Victor's left, the sensational Jamaican gal. What's up, gal? Simone X.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, all right. Next to Simone, we have, what's your name, girl? Let them know in the front.
Aurelis.
I can't pronounce her name, but I love her name. Next to my right, he is a musician, sensational. His name is Gio Cruz.
What's up? What's going on? Gio Cruz.
I can't forget the engineer himself. His name is Patient Visionary. My engineer. This is my team. We're shaking it up. You know, I'm going right to it. All right. So, I want to talk about racism. Before I talk about the good stuff about Jada Pinkett, I'm going to talk about Kelly, 50 Cent, a little bit of sports, and what's going on with everybody in the table. First, I'm going to go hit up with Victor Cruz. What's up, Victor?
Oh, my God, I'm first on the scene, baby. What's happening? We're going to talk about racism. Let's bring on Victor Cruz. I am a racism specialist. Examine all things racist.
My apologies, Vic. You know, I gotta talk about it. Before I go to the fun
I love you, man.
I love you too.
And I love the beard, too.
This is what I'm like.
Nice.
I'm like Ghost from Power. Tommy!
Yeah, you look just like him. You Amari Hardwick to a T, baby.
So I was focusing on everybody's going through a lot of things, right? It's been a wild 2020. Would you say it's a wild 2020, right? Australia been on fire, right? And I'm going right to George Floyd, the racism situation, black on black crime. Everybody talk about black on black crime, right, June? They'd be like, oh shit, Shakes. Why there's not an uproar when Vanessa Goom, the Spanish Latina who was disappeared from Fort Hood, Texas, right? Am I correct with that?
Mm-hmm.
There's no uproar for that. One of my boys, Lance, he was saying, oh, Shakespeare is talking about George, he's talking about Rashad, but there's other people that's dying, like for July 4th. 18 people died in Chicago, right? Was that right?
That doesn't fit the narrative.
It doesn't?
That doesn't fit the narrative that's being pushed forward.
Mm-hmm. What's the narrative that's being pushed?
Well, I believe what happened to that soldier, she was attacked she's deceased by another soldier who was also African American, and she's a minority as well. So then it's just going to seem like,
you know what,
you don't want to say it, but maybe minority versus minority more than the narrative that's being pushed right now as far as law enforcement versus minority. That's just the way I see it.
Okay. Simone, tell me, what's your thoughts, Simone?
I think that would be one aspect of it, but I also think another aspect of it is there's been similar cases of women throughout the years that have been attacked, that have had acid poured on their genitals, that have had body parts cut off, and the military has ruled this as a suicide. So I think it is a minority on minority thing, and it is a black on black crime thing, but it's also them CYA. You know what I mean?
Correct.
They're covering their tracks because it's sexual assault is very common within the military. Sexual harassment is very common within the military, but they're not going to promote it. They're not going to advertise it. They're going to sweep everything under the rug. And if we do our research, we'll see that a lot of our minority females have complaints, have disappeared, have been ruled suicide. That's the first thing they do. They rule it a suicide. So I think we have to look a little bit deeper sometimes, you know, the system.
Yeah.
You know, it could be so systematic sometimes.
That's a great point.
So at this point, do you feel like...
Thank you.
That's a very great point. It is. But at this point, do you feel like black kids should know their rights? And if you're in a carry state, maybe the black man should get his license? Right? I know in New York City you can't carry a gun, but if you're in North Dakota or you're in Nebraska or whatever, if there's a carry state, I think you should take a class, HGL class, get your gun license. What do you think about that?
Look, I think, I had a friend who was an attorney who always used to tell me, she said, if you don't know what your rights are, then you have no rights. Because you're not even aware of the rights you do have. So, yeah, I think you should be aware of, if the state that you're in, if you're allowed to carry a weapon, right? Because, just on just the basics of protecting your family and your home, maybe that's your choice. You're like, this is what I need to do because of where I live.
Right.
It's dangerous and, but at the same time, too, not just about carrying a gun, but what are the other rights we're not aware of? I mean, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of people that don't even know the history of the country that we live in.
Correct.
There's a lot of information we don't know that I think, because there's a huge awareness and the current movement and the climate of where we are, I think now's a good time to ask some questions to self, right? To ask yourself, what is my history? Who am I? Just a simple question as that.
That is so true. The past few months I've been doing research on Black history. I'm from Haiti, and my research brought me back to Guinea, Africa. Okay, I don't even know. I'm thinking we are the strong warrior, Napoleon and Spain with Toussaint, right? So, go back to what you're saying. Is deadly force really necessary with the gun, with the cops? Like, when you're using the deadly force, this is what I'm saying. We need to protect ourselves. With the black man with getting license with the gun. So, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I fully understand what you're saying. In certain instances, I feel if it's a family dispute, I don't feel like an officer with a firearm should be called if two siblings were having some type of sibling rivalry or whatever it is that's going down. Maybe they need someone to come, maybe like a peace officer, a mediator type of officer, just to come and see if they can diffuse the situation. And then if it is violent, or let's say someone was stabbed, then you can call in officers who have weapons. I don't feel like every instance needs someone with a weapon, but certain instances can it can shift.
Right.
The situation can shift, so maybe that's why.
I agree with what you're saying as far as the police not necessarily always being the best option.
Right.
Especially in a lot of domestic cases that you have going on. And I know that New York City, as well as some other cities, have decided to implement caseworkers and outreach workers and trauma workers to come in and step into those roles. But I think what he's talking about with the carrying of the gun, we should absolutely strap up.
Carry license up.
We should strap up, but we should do it responsibly.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And you can look at all the Karens right now that are pulling guns on others. Just because you have a concealed to carry weapon doesn't mean that you're responsible. And I even saw an instance of where a waitress jumped in front of a man because the lady pulled a gun on him in a restaurant. And so, when we talk about these gun laws, we got to kind of figure out a way to have people be able to keep their Second Amendment rights, but also do it responsibly. Because I've been seeing a lot of instances on TV, on the internet, where people are just pulling guns.
Right.
like, I got a gun, so I'm, you know what I mean? So
in a lot of these instances.
Now, if we have the gun, as he's saying, if we have the gun, then what's the outcome?
I was going to get to that.
What's the outcome of that?
The way I see it is,
because if you pull up, you can't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Right. Exactly.
So if you have a gun and not, if you pull a gun and not, now we just trigger fingers.
Sometimes it's not about the gun itself, it's about the carrier. I know people who own firearms who never had to use them, but they do live in a state where you're allowed to have a firearm and so forth. They do believe in, their amendment rights and protecting their property and what's that we were talking, the stand your ground. A lot of people, maybe that needs to be revised because in a lot of states, the stand your ground, it comes up as a vacative of, well, this justified why I pulled my firearm. I'm allowed to pull my firearm, even though I was maybe arguing with someone who had nothing. But like you're saying, now you see someone pulling out their gun in a situation where
It's not necessary.
right.
What's the stats and benefits of filming police brutality? What do you feel about that?
Of what?
Of filming police brutality. Like, it was a benefit when he caught George.
Yeah, I think Will Smith. But it's funny because you're gonna end up talking about that situation later. But Will Smith actually posted a really great quote. He said, "I don't think that racism has gotten worse. I think it's just getting filmed." I paraphrase. And I think that like now that everybody has like the technology to be able to film these injustices, that's why we're seeing more of it. It's not that it's just springing up and there's more of it, right? We even think about like Chappelle's, first one of his earlier stand-ups, Killing Him Softly, right, where he talks about how like white people are shocked when they hear like, wait, this is happening in like black communities,
So true.
And so I think it's just becoming more. We're seeing it more on social media, and I think the social media stuff is like a double-edged sword, right? Like I think it's super valuable for a lot of the movements that are happening, right? Like people being able to like have their voice and speak out and talk about these injustices and educate, and if people are coming from a positive spot, then it's dope. But I think it also gives power to a lot of people to show a lot more of some of the stuff that we're talking about, that we're seeing, people pulling guns on each other, all that kind of stuff that riles us up.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like, for me, I feel myself getting angry, right?
Watching it. Right.
And then doesn't allow me to be clear sometimes as to like what a real sort of outcome could be. Instead, it almost feels like there's people behind the scenes like puppeteering the situation to make us get riled up, because when we riled up, we're not clear, right? So I think something that we have to do is.
She said you had a great point.
You're bringing up a great point, because I speak out about the media a lot and the fact that they're only pushing one side of what occurred, and then I do feel like there's Karen, Susan, Becky, all of this stuff that's going on, but I do also believe in two human beings just having a dispute and without these labels.
Right.
So now that tensions are high and people are like so tit for tat with everything, I don't feel in every instance that it is a Karen, Ken type of narrative. But the media will just show us that one clip, like you said, that'll just get you so upset that you're ready to just take action. And then when you get to the bottom, or you watch the whole entire video, it's like, I think this is maybe just two people just having a bad day and exchanging words, and not so much of a racial thing where we would all want it to be. And I myself, I don't want every narrative to be racial, but that's just the time that we're in right now. So I feel like having access to recordings is good, and then maybe bad in certain cases, depending on what you're trying to push.
Right.
I think she makes a great point, and I also want to point out that all our media, all of our radio, all of our magazine, all of our movies, all of our production, anything that has to do with media is owned by 5 corporations. Yes. 5 corporations run everything that we see, hear, listen to. They choose the ads, they choose everything. So once again, we have to go back to how the media is propagating and pushing a lot of the narratives that are being run right now. And what I see right now is a lot like the propaganda that they used in Hitler's time. Because we have to remember that when they went in and they took Hitler, they also took his scientists. They also took the knowledge that he had. Hitler had the power to brainwash an entire nation, and he did that through the media. He did that through the media. He had songs, he had, and that was a lot of years ago. We're in a millennium right now. So can you imagine how much time we've had to perfect the art? And that's why they call it television programming. It's a programming. They call it a TV programming because it's programming you. things that we see, things that music is the only thing that activates both sides of your brain. But yet, this is the crap that they put out.
That is so true.
I need Fantasia to come out with an album, okay?
We call it on you right now. We need you.
With a good gospel album, you know what I mean? Because we live in a smut culture. That's the music that we you know what a lot of the music, a lot of the music is in a smart culture. You know what I mean? And we have to realize how powerful the media is. We have to realize how powerful music is.
Smut culture.
Smut?
Well, look. Well, you know, smut is a term used for things that are, you know, like pornography or like magazines with porn in it or things like that, or novels that talked about making love was considered smut at some point back in the day. So that's considered as smut, something that, I mean, look, I agree with you on that when it comes to music, because there was a time when music was filled with some really lovely poetry, codes and things that I had to think about and break down. And now it's just straight out there. And it's been like that for a while now. I mean, it's not like it just happened last week.
I remember when the kids would sing, I know I can.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now they're like, Papa Molly, I'm so, you know what I mean? So the narrative has changed. The narrative
Tevin Campbell, Can We Talk? I just found out I'm today years old. He said that was about stalking someone. And I was just like, wow, stalking
we had like legit love songs.
I'm still a
Roddy Rich love song. That's Roddy Rich.
Like, was having a Campbell, you know, saying about his first crush.
Victor, tell me,
how are we now where...
I'm going to ask Victor one thing, my lady, right quick. I'm going to ask Victor.
Okay.
How do entertainers feel about their role on talking about certain issues right now? Because he's a big entertainer, big actor right here.
Well, look, I think it's a really great time. People are really starting to look at everything from movies, how things are being casted, to theater, to how many jobs are actually being given to, you know, black and brown communities. We're talking about material. We're talking about, you know, material that's being produced.
Right.
The only thing that's interesting recently that I see, it's like there are initiatives there are things that we want done, but I don't think that you should take something that's already been made, remake it, and then make it an all-black cast.
Wow.
And like for instance, the Wonder Years, they're going to remake that show, but they're going to make it an all-black cast. My thing is, I bet you, and I know for certain because I produce stuff, I write stuff, and I got tons of friends that write stuff. There's original, unique material waiting at the doors to be produced. Why do we got to remake something and here's the thing about that: make it all black, and then you can sell it to the networks or sell it to the people like change is happening. Change is not happening. You're still in control of the narrative.
Absolutely.
You're still in control of the programming.
Absolutely.
By making it all black doesn't fix the problem. What you need to do is get black writers in there, Latino writers in there too. There's so much good ideas waiting to happen. And people, look, what I do admire about a lot of artists is that they don't wait for these doors to open. They make their own stuff. You got tons of films out there that are happening. Sometimes you don't even know it's happening. You can find it on Amazon Prime.
That's true.
Because Amazon Prime is a platform that actually, if you produce stuff, you can get stuff up there. And it is a process that requires some patience and paperwork, but you can actually do it. So there's a lot of great material out there, whether it's a web series or film or podcast. Like, I mean, this is a perfect example of a show that this is yours. You created this. You didn't have You didn't have to ask Hollywood, hey, because of the current climate, because of Black Lives Matter, can you give me an opportunity?
Right.
You've been doing this way before this current conversation is happening, and that shows your independence. That shows the power that you guys have. And so for me, that's the only thing that I look at that I go, that doesn't solve the problem. I think we need to have more casting directors that are black and brown. You know, that they understand the voices that are needed for certain shows. You know, so my thing is, like, if you want to fix the problem, we got to open the door to opportunity.
Right.
Absolutely.
Stop trying to control it and stop trying to hide behind the curtain.
They're still controlling the narrative.
You're still controlling it.
Not giving the control.
There could be more people of color I'm tired of
Yes.
seeing an African American playing a Jamaican person or an
Mhm.
Asian person. So
Yeah.
my thing is, aren't there any Haitians or any Caribbean
100%.
actors who are trying to get ahead? You can't go find these people that are doing, C and D-list movies in the islands. Give them like he said, a
Opportunity.
better opportunity to step in the door to open it up for other people that are from the islands and from places. It's discouraging because you're Spanish. I've seen this many times where they'll just get a guy that can blend many roles, and now you see a dude playing an Arab role, a Spanish role, all
Racially
these
ambiguous.
Indian role. Like
Yeah.
I'm
you
not
couldn't
gonna
go
front.
and find
That
all
happens.
these
Racially
other
ambiguous.
people.
Mhm. That happens to me. I've been an Officer Rodriguez and I've been an Officer Duncan.
Right.
Right.
I changed the mustache and I'm
Right.
Officer Duncan, I'm Officer, Hennessy, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? I could be these different people. But I do highly agree in what you're saying that if the story, let's say for instance, is about a Haitian family, there are plenty of Haitian artists right here in the States that are perfect for those roles. Or if you want to take it a step further, if we're talking about a family that just came, or this is happening in Haiti, then you go to Haiti
Correct.
and you cast there.
Correct.
Why not? Go for it. Do it. Take a chance.
But I think what it is that they're so in control of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing is they're giving us a false sense of security. They're trying to appease us through symbolism instead of actually changing the system.
Agreed.
Changing the system would be to bring in those diverse
That's it.
actors,
Really?
those diverse writers. So they're just like, okay, well, we're gonna turn the Wonder Years into a black show now. We're
Right.
gonna make Facts of Life all
Right.
black. You know what I mean? And so it's like it's a false sense of security that they're giving us, and I think we really need to be knowledgeable. And we need to not fall for the okie dokie all the time. We can't drop our weapons just because the enemy's
I'd like to
small.
raise one last point on this topic, and I'm glad that we spoke out about it because right now people are calling Halle Berry, I don't want to say the wrong words, transphobic and homophobic. I'm not sure how they all work. Transphobic. So basically, they wanted her to play a transgendered role. Trans man.
You heard about this one?
Now,
Yeah.
on the outside looking in, she stepped down. And anyone else who would know, they're like, why don't you go and find a trans man of color if that's what you're pushing to go and do this role? Now you pushed it to this black woman to now play a trans man, and now she's getting all this backlash because she's saying, give a trans person this opportunity to break that barrier maybe in Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? That's going on where you
But
have a
that's how the
straight
media
heterosexual woman
But that's how the
playing
media
a
manipulates
trans
the narrative.
person. And I feel that's really unfair to their community of not having their voice as well. And then you push it on this woman of color to try to make it seem like she's dogging this community. Instead, she just stepped down so someone else can get to get the part.
Right.
But that's how they're gonna push that narrative.
Yes.
Instead of them saying, oh, Halle Berry, she did this wonderful thing, she stepped down, she gave these people this opportunity. It's like, no, Halle Berry doesn't want to do this, she's trained. Because they control everything and they control the narrative. And we just have to really stop falling for the okie dokie. Like,
What I'm saying, I want to hear your thoughts.
for sure.
On this topic, that's your topic. Let me hear your thoughts.
No, so simply, I think the biggest issue for the reason why she received so much backlash was the fact that, you have, just like you have so many different actors, like you were saying, like Haitian actors, Jamaican playing Caribbean roles, right? There's so many trans actors, right? But then, there comes into the world of, trans actors and not only wanting them to play trans roles, right? Like if they are fully transitioned or wherever they are in their transition and we're accepting them as people, normal humans for who they are, then why can't they play a role that is quote unquote set for someone who's cisgender or who's born a certain way, right? Because there's a lot of like, for example, there's a lot of like trans women, right, in like the show like Pose, right?
Okay.
And so like you have TV shows like Pose, right, where you have women who are in the show who pass, right, quote, like they have the whole passing, and they're saying like, why is it not okay for me to just play a role of a wife or a role of like a mom in a movie that has nothing
Right.
to do with trans issues?
I think the thing on that is, and it's a great point you brought it up. So I watched this show called The Shy. I actually, the guy Reg, right? He signs up for this show. Great opportunity for someone just starting out. His contract and everything just states you're gonna play this drug dealer / big brother to this younger kid, and we're gonna show that narrative of a young man just hustling in the hood to get by. He said there was no sexual anything as far as a straight girlfriend or a trans girlfriend or gay girlfriend. There was no girlfriend. So now I think they're in their 3rd season now. So if you watch last season, Reg was shot, but he was shot and we all thought like he was gonna survive. So now the 3rd season starts and we're like, okay, where's Reg? So this is just me. I go Googling, and then on Google it says Reg's character was kicked off because not only is his first girlfriend going to be transgender, they didn't even give him an option to say, well, my preference would be for a heterosexual female. If you're gonna give me a girlfriend, I don't just want to be the first guy to cross this barrier, and I'm not even in that comfort zone. He's basically saying no one even prepped him for that. So it's a touchy thing because now people are saying that he's transphobic,
Right.
even though he's just a heterosexual actor who obviously has never kissed a man before or someone who is trans. He didn't meet the person before anything like that. And he was like, y'all are just making it seem like I don't like this individual when I'm just not comfortable doing this. And he actually has a lawsuit, I believe, going on with The Shy. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think it's just about comfort
level,
zones.
absolutely. And I don't think that someone should be classified as a transphobic or a homophobic, you know,
Right.
because they don't agree or feel comfortable with someone else's lifestyle or someone else's preferences. Just like a trans person wants to not always play a trans role,
Right.
you can't force a female to play a
trans role.
She might not be comfortable with
it's
that.
about
And I
comfort
think,
zones.
we've become so politically correct that the minute you disagree with someone, you're a hater.
Right.
You're a phobic. You know what I mean? The word, you're canceled.
Yeah, basically
We
that's
live-
what
we
they
live-
wanted to do
we
to
live in a
Reg,
cancel
and
culture
he's saying,
right now.
I love everyone. He's like, he's like, shout out to this person that's stepping in and doing it for them.
How would you feel, Victor, if you were on, you had a gig, and unbeknownst to you, your partner was a trans, and
What?
you had to be intimate with them, or at least,
Yeah.
They had to be
No, that's
intimate.
a strong
He said that was his
kids,
thing.
you
They
have
had to be intimate.
and they didn't prep you for this. You
No,
found
because-
this out on the set.
But let me answer this way. Aren't you an actor? When you're an actor, really, you're supposed to put that away. You're not supposed to
That's a
think
good
about.
point.
That's a great
'cause you're
point.
an
That is a great
actor,
point.
because I took the actor, Victor's acting class. I've learned. I've learned a lot of myself. The heart wasn't a refrigerator, but
That's
the
a
point is,
Yeah.
go ahead, Victor. I'm sorry for go ahead.
No, so I agree with what you guys are saying. So as an actor, for me, like if I was in a relationship with another man, or if I was in a relationship with, you would say trans man, right? Like it's a woman, a man that is now a woman, right?
It's like saying any black.
I'm sorry, I don't know the proper terms, but am I saying something wrong?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't want to get anything wrong.
No,
here.
no,
Right.
You know where I'm coming from. I'm saying it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think you're on the right.
Okay,
You're on the
okay.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So here's the thing. I'm an actor, and I completely agree with that. Like, if the role requires me to be involved with, with let's say another man. Let's just keep it as me and another man. That's the role. I understand. I'm walking into that, and most times, for me, and I'm going to just talk about any role, right? I'm going to look at any role and look at the story. So if the story is is a really great story, needs to be told, like you absolutely want to be a part of that project, whatever the character may be, whatever the sexual preference may be, right? Now, for me, if it's something that is not a good story, that it's almost on the verge of like just pornographic, just to be pornographic or sexual, but there's nothing more than that, then I would have to question that project for me personally.
Right.
But I have no issues with being involved with anybody on screen. You know, for me, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Now, my question about this is with the Shy, because thanks for ruining the Shy for me because I haven't seen it yet.
Spoiler right now.
There was no alert. Now here, like, look, I want to ask. So I'm thinking about this, right? I'm thinking about this. Like was it his wife or the girlfriend that they were bringing onto the show?
The girlfriend.
And so she was trans.
Yes.
And she was a trans woman.
A trans woman. Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Appearing as a woman.
Yes.
But now, here's the interesting question, right? Because this is a question, and I say this with compassion. This is a weird question. Did she look like a woman, or did she resemble a man who was a woman?
It was.
Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, because some appear more feminine.
Right.
Because I'm just trying to figure out the storyline. Like, what was the character a trans woman, right? Trans woman, is that the right term? Was the character a trans woman in the story, or was she just playing his girlfriend on the show?
I mean, me personally as a woman, I can look on a man and in female clothing unless they're doing full transformation, where sometimes you might be like, wow, this is a great transformation, and I didn't even know that, you were a man and now you're a full-blown woman, and we're gonna have to address you as that because that's just me. Now, if I felt like it was a nice looking, I don't want to use the wrong word, trans woman, but at the same time, I watched it with heterosexual males, and they knew it was a male. And I also didn't like how they sexualized. It wasn't about the message. I was hoping that it would have been more transparent about the what's the word? The gap between the black community and trans and this. I thought they were going to push that narrative more. It was more sexual. So now I could understand what Reg was saying. It was more sex. And I actually didn't like that with Empire either, because I have a lot of gay friends and they're not promiscuous in that way. And they don't like to be shown in that light or in that way. Like, yeah.
Would you say, Gio, what's your thoughts?
Oh no, I think the first, and that's a great point. I understand, like, I think all of this, and one of the things that we've talked about a great deal, right? We grew up in a time, like, all of us, we grew up in the South Bronx, like, we would say things like, yo, that's retarded.
Right.
That's gay.
Right.
And we've kind of come to a spot, I think, where we have started to understand, right, that for a lot of people, they've had to live a certain way, hidden, their lives at great risk, right, at great danger, like passing or not passing, right, who are a part of that community, who had to exist, like, worried that they were going to walk down the street and not make it home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this is more coming to light to us today, especially us that are considered heterosexual. I don't know where people sit, sexuality. I would say as a heterosexual.
Cisgendered, I believe.
Cisgendered.
So that's your gender identity.
I'm
just like
cisgendered.
someone who's trans is a trans woman.
Yes.
You would be a cisgender.
I have to learn
female.
all the terms.
But your sexuality is what your preference.
Yes.
I'm going to move on from this
Wait.
topic.
Let's-
We got one more? I'm going to move on. We got it. I want to go now.
Yeah, finish your
It's what you identify as. Sorry.
Finish, Gio. He's going to finish it off.
Oh no, I think that the big thing is, I think that passing or not passing where people are, I think the big thing is just like a level of like respect for people.
Tolerance.
I think tolerance is the key thing.
Yes.
I don't think, like,
Tolerance.
listen, I think like that moment is very real, right? Just like the moment that we've had at this table where people are like worried about how to say a certain thing, like, what am I considered? Cis, dot, dot, dot. Fuck, excuse me. Screw the terminology, because I think that we could get in a spot where we could fix the terminology after we have the real conversation, which is really about tolerance, right? And it's really about saying, like, it doesn't take anything away from me as a man to tell this story, though. And this is an important story that needs to be told. Now listen, I'm also being tolerant to his boundaries, right? This actor who plays Reg has certain boundaries as an artist, and maybe for him, he's like, I'm not in a spot to cross that boundary. That's not for me. That's not the story I'm trying to tell. I respect him on that, but for us to then say like, well, this person doesn't, I think in that position, that's when we get a little gray, because it gets kind of dangerous on the tolerance spot, right? Like that story, regardless, there's trans women who really pass and there's trans women who are not, that you would look at in that situation, you would say like, oh, this person I could tell dead up is a man or whatever. You know, so for me, I just think tolerance is a big piece. That's,
and I just want to throw this out there. I'm just thinking about like movie making in general. When something doesn't look right or doesn't, it's not truthful, it stands out, right? Like a fake mustache, a fake beard. I'm just talking about anything in general. So I'm not, anything that I'm saying obviously is not, I'm not trying to be harmful. But at the same time, it's just like a good actor versus a bad actor. If the actor is not great at what they do, would you rather have a good actor or the bad actor? And I'm just saying, like, if me watching it, I'm like, yeah, if this is the story you're telling me, right? If this is the story you're telling me, then great. And if it appears that way, but if there's something that tells me another story, then me as the audience, I'm gonna think about it. And I'm gonna say, oh, maybe that's a trans woman. Oh, that's interesting. And then suddenly I'll give the show credit and go, that's awesome that they did that, that character, not production company, that character is dating a trans woman. That says a lot about that character. Wow. Do you understand where I'm getting at here?
Yes.
I'm looking at the story for what it is. If the trans woman, by any means resembles a man, right? I'm just going to be open to this idea, like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool, but more about the character. So that's what I'm talking about. Does that make any sense to you?
It makes sense, but my only concern is simply the fact that, like, we have this idea of what things are supposed to look right means, right? So, like, this idea of what fits right into my movie or who cares? Like, if someone looks a certain way, whether they're passing or not, if they're identifying as a female, they're a female. That's it. Like, there's no.
It's a yes.
It's a yes and no, because we have it's the tolerance issue, right? So, like, think about this. No, but think about the
dissonance.
No, but think about the
I
situation.
think a lot of people have cognitive dissonance.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. Right. Let's talk about, like, casting Latinos, right? Latinos, we don't all look white and we don't all look light skinned, right? A good majority of them, but there's Afro Latinos that are black. We're not posting them out because they don't fit the stereotype of this spicy, feisty Latina. Right. Like, if we're casting, like, oh, this character cast for someone who's Latina, you're just gonna be like, wow, that's a beautiful black woman, right? Because they're also black. Right. And we're thinking like, oh, but this doesn't fit my image. So it's the same idea when it comes to trans women. And even though it's, like, nuanced, but you still have these ideologies behind, like, what people should look like. But where do those things come from?
Well, I'll tell you what. To be fair to me, and to be fair to a lot of people, okay, and we have to be fair, because, growing up, I grew up Catholic as a kid. That already comes with its own problems. Right. In my community. Right. All right.
No,
Then there's a conditioning. There's a conditioning that comes from my own community, right? Yeah. Which is good hair, bad hair.
Yeah.
That has a bunch of issues all in itself, right? And then
you got light skin and dark skin.
Dark skin and dark skin. And on top of that,
West Indian in the front.
Right, and I always say the same thing about my hair.
Yeah, be like, what?
The way that the media portrays Latinos and blacks on TV, it's like if that is your only source of seeing yourself in the outside world, that's a problem. Because for me, I grew up with a complex thinking that I wasn't Latino enough because I didn't look like the Latinos that they were showing back to me
Right.
on my TV set. Right, so now I have a complex. I have a complex coming out of college, and I'm out there auditioning for stuff, and I have a complex. They would bring me in for Daniel Rodriguez, and I'm like, I don't look like Daniel Rodriguez. And so suddenly I would take myself out the equation mentally because I don't feel like I fit that.
You
so
could pass for a Steinberg.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And sometimes I have, you know, sometimes I have. So look, what I'm saying in response to what you're sharing, I completely understand where you're coming from, and you're absolutely right. And what I suffer and what I have to deprogram myself on is the conditioning. This is a conditioning that's been going on for such a long time that, you know, and it was like this for a long time,
It
even
was.
for my own community. You know, that a man marries a woman marries a man, and there were gay people in our community and in our family, and there were trans women in our community, and we laughed at them.
That was very good. Victor, this is the last minute of the show right here. The
Yeah.
engineer told me, where can we find and see you? We got 1 more minute of the show.
Well, look,
Topic got ahead of us.
so right.
Favorite topic.
It's
a
a
heavy
heavy
topic.
topic.
It's a
We
heavy
can talk
topic.
about it for
I'm
hours.
Jamaican, and you know how Jamaican people
I'm
like
Jamaican
the
too.
mentality,
Oh my
the
gosh.
mentality of it.
But
But
I love
as
it.
he said,
Listen.
it's the cognitive dissonance. It's a conditioning that we're so used to that.
Simone, what's your
conditioning.
Instagram name? Tell me, because time is running, girl. Tell me.
Simone_Semina.
Really, some of yours.
Aurelius.
Aurelius.
Cruz 36.
More bad her name. Tell
All
me.
right, I'm on Instagram. I'm at Victor Cruz Films. Check out a new show that I have called Tita, also available on YouTube. All you have to do is type in Tita, Tita.
Come
She will
on.
pop up. Come on.
Come on! That's on cartoon. Let's go. I love this guy. June.
So you can look me up. I'm June Plum, like the best fruit in the world, and it's
Plum.
Aphrodite. My last page was flagged, so just flip the E into a 3 and double underscore. Thank you very much.
Hey.
Oh, no, not fish. I gotta go with my man Jill Cruz. You know that.
What's going on? I know we're in the rush and 2 minutes left. Oh my God! This has been a great conversation. It's conversations like that that's gonna change our minds as a community. I think it's beautiful. Geo Cruz Music. You'll find me everywhere.
It's your boy, Shakespeare Rock IT. Thank you for listening to the Shakespeare Podcast. See you next time. We're coming back again for another show. You know what it is. Shake, 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 shake the room.
But I spent through the ops and let that shit